Hi, and welcome to the first of what will hopefully be many videos under the title Surviving Adversity. I'm Dr. Adam Millman, also known as the Philosopherdoc, and here I have a very special guest today. Her name is Brittany Winner, and I want you to ask yourself a question for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to lose one of your senses? How would you respond? What would you think? What would you do? Chances are, if this ever happened to you, the way you would react is not exactly the way you think you would react. So today we have a very special guest and a unique opportunity to speak with a woman who not only lost one of her senses, but is now losing another one of her senses. Early on in life, she had numerous struggles, and that did not hold her back. She achieved great success in the literary world, and then in her adulthood, suddenly lost one of her senses. But this did not hold her back at all. In fact, not only did she survive, she's continuing to thrive. And now faced with another obstacle, the loss of her hearing, she's continuing to succeed and thrive beyond just surviving. So what can we learn from this? Is a different way of thinking about things and a different way of responding. So the thought pattern is what we'll be interested in addition to hearing what is going to be an unbelievably motivating story that we can all benefit from. So without further ado, I hand it over to my good friend, prolific author, one of the Winner twins, one half of the Winner twins, Miss Brittany Winner.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Millman. It's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be talking about the subject because this is actually my first time discussing dual sensory loss, and it's so new for me, but it's the beginning for me of a long journey of trying to share my story and help others, hopefully, with the things that I've learned through my health difficulties. So there we go.
Excellent. Brittany, it's a pleasure to have you. So we'll ask you a couple questions. Let's get started. Please tell us a little bit about your history, your childhood, where you're from, and then what happened to you when you were young, your first set of challenges that you were able to not only survive through, but excel through.
So I'm one of two, as we talked about earlier. I'm an identical twin, and my parents they said they couldn't have kids. So for 13 years, nothing. One day, pregnant with two of us. And we were born 11 weeks early. We weren't supposed to make it. I was the sicker of the two. I wasn't even breathing when I was born. And they said, she's not going to make it. She's not going to make it for a couple of years. I made it. He said she wasn't going to have teeth or hair. I got teeth or hair. And the first 6 years of my life, I was in and out of hospitals. I was with pneumonia because your lungs don't develop when you're born that early. I mean, we were born so early, we just had little ear flaps, when you're supposed to be born in June and you're born in March. So we had those difficulties, but my sister and I discovered that we loved to create stories, and that was our way of overcoming our medical challenges. My immune system at that age was also affected. And when you have double pneumonia, for example, that hits you that hard, you lose your hair. So I lost all my hair multiple times as well. It would just come out in clumps. And that was just the beginning. But I never let it stop me because I realized when I was in the hospitals at that age, I saw other kids had it worse. So, and I had my identical twin, which made me even more blessed. By the time I was 11 or 12, my medical problems are pretty much gone, especially when you're premature, your lungs develop. When you're a doctor, you know this. I wasn't perfect, but it was pretty much gone. But what did stay was the learning disabilities. So at 12, I couldn't read. And it's not because I couldn't see the words. I had such severe dyslexia and dysgraphia, which has to do with handwriting, dyscalculia, that has to do with math, that I did not fit in the box. And I didn't learn like a normal child. I was an auditory learner, and I was blind to words. My self-confidence was gone. Most of the day I was out in special ed or resource and having to relearn everything that I would learn in class, but then by the time I would get back, that was only lesson 1 of the day, and they'd be on lesson 4. Then I'd have to go to the back of the classroom, find my large print books that would take me about 5 to 10 minutes, and the lesson would be over. Couldn't find my large print books because I'm dyslexic, so didn't work out. And of course I got teased a lot because they have you come up and read in front of everyone, but I couldn't even get out a sentence. And self-confidence at that age can affect you for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And that childhood, it's defining. So we went to our dad, my sister and I, because she also has dyslexia, but she has ADD as well. So it was more of an invisible learning disability. A different battle, but still just as valid. And we said, we're stupid. We're not going to be able to do absolutely anything. And my dad thought about it and realized that that statement coming from an 11 or 12-year-old is very serious. You don't want to have that kind of self-confidence problems for your kid. But he thought about what we were good at, and that was storytelling. And he sat us down the next day and said, what do you guys think about writing a book? I know that you're not going to be able to physically type it, because at that point in time, when I wrote this book right here, my spelling was at kindergarten level, and I couldn't read at all. Why don't you write a book? I went, that's impossible. We're stupid. He said, fine. Just see how it goes. Every day at school is incredibly difficult. He said, yes, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's a nightmare. Every day's a nightmare. He said, when you come home, we'll write one chapter, one page. We'll give you something to look forward to. Okay. So we started researching science, and we started crafting a story. And we started writing the book. And things started to change. Because on my computer document, we had 10,000 words, 20,000 words, 30,000 words. We got to 85,000, 90,000 words. And we went, this is actually good. Should we do something with it? And we went to our dad and said, hey, we want to publish this. How do we do this? And we weren't ordinary at that period of time. I mean, when you have learning disabilities, you have other things about you that are extraordinary. And I believe everyone has things about them that are extraordinary. For us, it was our vocabulary was college level at that point when we were 11. And we could communicate with adults pretty much at an adult level. The word prodigy means a young person that can do something at an adult level. And so when we finished the book, we became, people told us we were prodigies, which was the exact opposite of what we thought we were. And we were being told by all of the students around us. So the first thing we did is we sent it in for independent book awards. And we sent it in for like 10 because we were 12 and we didn't know any better. And we got these emails. My mom got the emails. We didn't have an email address at that time. And my mom said, you got nominated for one. But the email's broken because there's a whole bunch of more emails saying that you're nominated for other things. We were nominated for 8. Wow. And then we went national into, at that time, Borders and Barnes & Noble nationally. And my learning disabilities were not getting any better. So I'm now in 5th grade. My books are in Barnes & Noble, but I'm struggling so hard in school that I cannot keep up or learn at all. So I go home and have to relearn everything. And we realized that I was just different. So the principal of the school suggested that we do a different type of learning for us. And so he said that perhaps for you, an independent study program, when you learn at home through computer, online lectures, and then you go into classes a couple days a week, that might work better with the way that you think and learn, and you'd be able to pursue what you did. And then we graduated high school a couple years later.
Amazing.
So what I didn't know is that I was having visual difficulties, and that was part of the issue. I started running into walls in preschool. And I'm Jewish, and I haven't been able to talk about that a lot, but I couldn't see Hebrew at all at that time because I couldn't even see English. So having a traditional bat mitzvah was not something that I could do because I couldn't even read Dr. Seuss. which was so interesting because at the time all of my friends were getting their bar mitzvahs and I couldn't do it. And I felt bad about myself. I still had a book in every Barnes & Noble store in the country, and we were the youngest ones to do it. So self-confidence is an interesting thing. So we had this massive battle, and I thought this was the biggest battle of my life. I thought this was it. And it was the beginning. So we get our first check-in for our books. And our parents say, it's yours, do what you want. And we sit down and went, how many other people go through this but never know that they can do something more? So we decided to open a nonprofit and start talking to students. But I had been teased so bad that I had a phobia of speaking in front of anyone. I was incredibly shy and didn't speak at all, which is the opposite, because now you can't get me to shut up. So I actually threw up because I was so scared in front of my first 6 or 7 speeches in the back. And my dad was holding my hair, and he said, you don't have to do this. Right. I said, no, I do. I do. And now, 15 years later, I look back at that young child thinking, thank goodness I did that, because she made me be ready for the most difficult struggle of my life. And that was at 22 years old. I had written many, many more books. And then I went blind. So.
Britt, that was amazing. We could stop then, and I think that's so much for us to digest. The struggles that you went through as a child, and the ability to overcome it. There's something different about you, in many ways, but specifically to deal with that. Many people would simply say, "I have this problem. What's going to become of me? I have this problem. I'm not going to be able to succeed. I have this problem. I now have to act out to get attention in other ways because I'm not academic. I can't learn, and everybody's right about me."
Right.
And I remember this Zig Ziglar said that you are where you are and you are what you are because of what you put into your mind.
Yes.
And you can change what you are and where you are by what you put in your mind. Mm-hmm. And if your brain is like a mental factory producing things, if we put garbage thoughts into our mind, things that limitations we put on ourselves, then that's what our brain is going to give off. You tell yourself you can't do something, for sure you can't do it. Even if you could do it, you set it up so now that you can't succeed. So when a child at a young age says, I'm stupid, I can't succeed, I don't do well in school, this is a big problem because this is at such a young age to have this self-image. This is something that has to be cracked right away and broken. Yeah. Otherwise, the child is going to be destined for struggles later on. Yeah. In my own experience, when I was younger, I had this diagnosis of attention deficit disorder. I was in trouble all the time. I was quite violent. I was disruptive. You couldn't really teach with me in the room. And the teacher would say, don't pay attention to him. He has the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Don't pay attention to him. And they say, okay, so now that I will act like that. Because if you tell a child that he has something wrong with him, that's how he's going to behave. This Pygmalion effect, where the teachers are told these kids are the ones that are, Pygmalion in the classroom, I think it's called. The teachers are told these are the kids that are gifted. The teacher is going to teach those kids as if they're gifted, even if they're not. And if the teachers are told these are the kids that struggle and have intellectual limitations and learning disabilities, they're going to teach them different. Yep. Because you teach. So I tell the parents sometimes of the kids that I see that sometimes the student doesn't have the learning disability, the teacher has a teaching disability. We have to figure out the best way to teach the kids, understand the limitations and learning styles, because everyone learns differently. So to be creative will help that student that thinks they can't learn anything because they don't learn this specific way, break out of that and succeed by learning a different way.
And when the fundamental years of when you're in school, I mean, it starts young, because then you go to high school and then it gets you into college and then you're out and you're like, whoa, I'm an adult. The second you graduate, like one day you're a kid, then you're an adult. And it feels overnight, really a young adult. And the self-confidence issues that can start so young, it affects you forever.
Sure.
And it's hard because when the school systems, they do the best they can. When I was in school, there was almost 40 kids in each classroom. And I was told that they would literally argue over which ones to get the special ed kids because it was so difficult. And it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. It's not going to work. Right. Sometimes you're different, but not everyone has the opportunities to be able to take it out and put in an environment that works. So, or you're already an adult and you had that. Now what? Now how do we learn? How do we move forward? Because life is a learning process, right?
Sure, every day.
And we're just students of life. And I don't know if we ever really graduate. So what do we do? And I think that we should focus on what we're good at. And that goes back into what we're discussing as well with overcoming adversity, dual sensory loss, or whatever it is. Focusing on something you're good at and having that goal, even if it's small, can help children, but also helps you as an adult. Just even a small thing that you think is stupid. Also the concept of imposter syndrome. I have never met anyone who doesn't have it, no matter how successful, how famous, how rich. And I've traveled the world and met some incredible people, right? Everyone doesn't feel good enough.
Right.
And once you get that in your head, and I have to work on myself for that on a daily basis. You have to think, well, if everybody has it, no one feels like we're ever really good enough. You could say, oh, Britt, you've written over 20 books. I said, well, it could be 40.
Right.
And maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe that's one of the things that makes me want to do more. But we all have to. It's a give and take.
Right. And it makes it very hard to be happy when you want to succeed, and you don't succeed, then you feel bad. But then if you do succeed, you think maybe I could have succeeded even more.
Right.
And it's like this self-image, this inability to satisfy a self-image that you want to have. You visualize yourself as having a certain level of success, and you get there and you think, well, I could have done a little bit better. You say to somebody, hey, your suit looks very nice. Well, it would look better if it was pressed. You did a good job. I could have done a great job. So it can be good in the sense that you have high expectations, but it could be that you never fulfill them, and then you look down on yourself. And then you feel that you're not enough, and then you're not worthy of love because I could have done more and I didn't do more. But you've done more than so many. And we're competing against. I tell people that we're not competing against everyone else. We're competing against ourselves and what our ultimate potential is. Right. That the Almighty created you to be the best Brittany that Brittany can be, and the best Adam that Adam can be. Not compared to other people. Did you do everything that you could to reach your maximum potential in the aspects of your life that are important and are of value? Right. Or are you constantly comparing yourself to other people? That example you gave of when you wanted to go on stage and you couldn't and you threw up, that could have been a major turning point. But now that's something that in the future, when you ever confront some type of struggle, you say, well, I confronted something far worse than this. I'm not throwing up now, so I couldn't be as nervous as I was then. And I did it, and I can do it again. And somebody can learn from you and say, well, if Brittany did it, then I can do it. What's possible for her? Why isn't it possible for me? And use the examples of other people that struggled and how they were able to get through it. She threw up, and she still got on stage. That's amazing. Yeah. I feel bad, but I'm not throwing up. Let me get on stage. Maybe the nausea doesn't mean that I can't do it. It means now I have to do it. Now my body's getting fully ready for me to go on stage and perform.
Yep. My first 6 performances, and then I proceeded to talk in front of, over the next couple of years, 100,000 students live. And then I realized I was more comfortable in front of a group of large people than I was in a group of small people. And I had to work on that. So, life is a give and take. And the struggles that you have in the past can get you prepared for major problems in the future.
Wow.
So,
wow. Tell us, I think this, not everyone may know this, is that you were prolific when you were young despite the challenges, but then in the midst of your success and writing and being involved in conventions and conferences and speaking in nonprofits and helping kids that are struggling and raising money, then you ran into a problem with your vision. Tell us more about that.
So I didn't know what was going on. I just thought that my prescriptions kept having issues when I was in my late teens, 18, 19, and they weren't working. I had a lazy eye, and the other eye started to become lazy, like they just were both moving. And I decided it must be the lazy eyes. So I saw a doctor, and I had all these different symptoms, right? I had double vision in both eyes that were spinning to the rate of my heartbeat. It was light spots, dark spots. It was neurological symptoms as well as tunnel vision. And this is the importance of seeing more than one, just like everything, no person is a god. And that is a very important lesson that I've learned. Just because they have a degree in something, that doesn't mean they can't mess it up or oversee one thing. It doesn't make them bad. It just means it's an oversight. So she went, oh yeah, it's just your lazy eye. So they did a double surgery on strabismus surgery on both eyes. And what we didn't know is that I have a rare sporadic genetic condition and other medical conditions, and they did not like that surgery at all. So we don't know to this day, and I don't know if I'll ever know why 6 weeks later I woke up blind. It was just gone. 70% was gone. And it didn't feel real, because in darkness, it feels like I kept wanting to open my eyes. And I had the sensation that my entire world was on fire. And it stayed that way for 6 months. What changed for me, because I still had a career, I kept doing conventions. I faked it. Sometimes you just have to pretend like you're going to be okay, because I didn't want to stop my life. But I also went and got help from the Braille Institute and met other people. And I'll never forget, I walked into Braille class for the first time. And I said, I just went blind a couple weeks ago. And this woman looks in my direction, because I wasn't as blind as I am now. I'm going to go back on something. Blindness is a spectrum. So when you say blind, people think, oh, there's nothing. It's not true. It's only very few people in the blind community that have nothing. It can be incredibly distorted. You can have tunnel vision. It can look like white film. It's endless. And we're still under the blind umbrella because we cannot function. We have to use a white cane, Braille, other things. So even if you have a small pinhole in one eye that you can see sometimes out of one area and see an iPhone, that doesn't mean you're not a blind person. So at that point, I actually had more vision than I do now. But I was still blind. I mean, I was severely blind. I could not walk to the bathroom. I couldn't do anything. I'll go back to my story. So I walk into this Braille class, and I said, I lost my vision a couple weeks ago, and I'm losing it rapidly by the day. And this woman looks up at me and says, well, water's warm. Welcome to the club. Jump on in the pool.
Wow.
And I went, oh, really? She's like, this is my guide dog. And I looked over, and I scratched his head. I couldn't see him, but it was very clear the dog was completely senile and tried to guide everyone in the room. And I proceeded to have the most wonderful hour of my life, realizing that I didn't need to see anything to have a human connection. And that's the first lesson I learned. You don't need to see to have a human connection. And just because your life is on complete fire and you think every day is, for lack of a better term, hell. Because of going blind, and when you go blind overnight, it's hell. It's not the end. It's just a different beginning. Wow. And I'm not going to say, man, going blind is great. Highly suggest it. I don't. If you can do anything in your life to prevent losing a sense, you should. But did it improve who I am as a person? My values? My intellect? My life? It made everything better. I am a better Brittany, blind, than I was sighted. Because I thought things were important. I thought things mattered. Things that would bother me in the day that meant nothing. And blindness prepared me for what was going to happen. Because believe it or not, going blind is not the worst thing. So I don't know if I've told you about this, but I went blind at 22. I'm now 27. And I'd finally gotten used to my blindness. I was up, I was talking about it. We have videos on BuzzFeed. I'm getting ready and going. And I met my husband, which was a blessing. And I was blind, and I was on a dating app blind. And he didn't care. I said, he got on the phone. I said, I need to let you know that I'm blind. And he went, I don't care. I went, okay. I said, I want you to get to know who you are. I went, okay. And 6 months after eloping, we get the first strain of COVID, not the first one, and the one that was killing people. And with my other conditions that we had not known about yet, I had a stroke 2 weeks later. And that is where my battles really began. So you could say, whoa, blindness is terrible. No, having a stroke is worse, because then you don't know who your family is. You don't know, I didn't know who my husband was, although I did ask him out again. So and then I went back to, because during my stroke, the first day of my stroke, I'll remember bits. I forgot that I was blind. And I went back to the day all over again. And that was another part of rehabilitation. And it's the exact same thing. I had to do the exact same thing I did when I was 12, when I was overcoming learning disabilities. I did the same thing when I went blind, but this time I was paralyzed on the left side of my body, and I couldn't see very well. So it went back to the same thing. One day at a time. If you could focus on one thing that you're good at, and that was for me, I kept writing.
Excellent.
I couldn't remember what I was writing.
Amazing. Childhood learning disabilities, then going blind, then having a stroke,
Yeah.
and not knowing that you're blind, not knowing who your husband is, and learning how to move again and think. Amazing. So, Britt, what I've been dying to ask you since I've known you is when this happened to you, what did you say to yourself that you would think is different than someone else that ends up in a nursing home or a long-term rehab, or ends up having drug and alcohol problems and relationship problems because the event is so life-changing and so debilitating that they just cannot figure out how to get past this. So what's different about you that we can all learn from?
Well,
what is different about how you thought about it?
I didn't understand it until I started going deaf over last summer, which we thought everyone wore masks, so how would you know? And it sounds like I'm not deaf right now. I have a little bit of vision in one eye, and I'm actually reading your lips. So I have to think, and that is, I didn't live, if I really had a horrible day, I remembered that tomorrow could be something totally different. And that rehabilitation is it's a slow process, but there's improvement. So 2 years ago, I was in a walker, learning everything again. But here I am walking, sitting up, and doing good. And that's just pure hard work. And if I put everything I have into this, one day at a time, and see a little bit of improvement, then maybe it will be better tomorrow. I also realized that life wasn't all about me. Because I believe that, and not everybody has this, but I wasn't, if I were to go anywhere or have a massive issue, God forbid, hurt myself or kill myself, that's the easy way out for me. Because then the difficult things, facing my challenges, that's when I wanted to see if I could do it. Also, I couldn't do it to my parents. I couldn't do it to my sister. I couldn't do it to my husband. I couldn't do it to my friends. I couldn't do it to my chosen family. And the most difficult part about having disabilities is the people that can't stay. You see people that step up in a way that you can just never imagine. You go, oh my gosh, you are amazing. And then someone who is genetically related to you, that could be in your immediate family, that disappears because they can't mentally handle it. Having the people that support you around you is one of the things that kept me going.
And your relationship with them, and maybe what you could do for them. Exactly.
And for me, it was cooking. Sounds really silly. Right. Writing and cooking. So for me, I would try to get to the kitchen. I'm like, today I'm going to chop a carrot. This is during the stroke. And I taught myself how to chop a carrot. Next day, all right, this day I'm going to chop 2 carrots. I chopped 2 carrots. All right, I'm going to learn my husband's favorite recipe that his mother created, the chicken schnitzel. Okay. So I said, I learned, I made it from scratch, and I got it down. And that's working with oil, and that's working with hot oil. Knives, temperatures, and it also required me to multitask and remember what I was doing. So I did it, and then I mastered it. And then I improved my recipe. And then I went, okay, I made it for one person. I'm going to make it for 4 people.
Ah, right.
And this time, I'm not going to have help. Now, I can probably cook for about 16 to 20 people by myself.
I think we'll have to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I would definitely love to come over and cook. So I did that, and cooking was just one aspect. But I did the same thing with writing. Writing was more difficult because learning in the process, I've relied so much on speech to text, of course, as you start going deaf. Then it reads it back to you. So I ordered a Hadley, it's called Hadley Braille, and I'm going to teach myself fully Braille now. Even though I have some hearing, and I have help from my sister and from my co-author Todd, who I've written the Twin Soul series books with, and Magpie's War, just an incredible man, an author. He's amazing. I can't say enough. I forgot what I was saying. I said, oh gosh.
Writing.
Yes, thank you. We would write. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I need more coffee. So I would write every day with them. But I know one day they're going to be busy. And one day I might not have my sight or hearing, and then my autism will be gone. I need to be ready. And it's about embracing inevitable change. To go back to your question, the mentality that I had is to let yourself cry. Sometimes you need to let yourself cry. Sometimes it's okay to curse anything you believe in. Sometimes you can say life sucks, because it does. And life's not fair. It's not. There was a quote, someone else, we were just talking about this the other day. There's the world that we want it to be, and then there's the world that it is. My life is the world that it is. I was given everything, and then taken away so much. But what do you do with something like that, right? Because we watch television, we watch movies, and you say, oh, that's what my life's going to be, because everything like that is you have a happy ending. But that's not what life is. How do we mentally prepare for what life is? The challenge. And I think just like working out, you got to work out your brain. You got to be ready. You got to take care of yourself. And if that is eating properly, and that is sleeping properly, it's both things that I do. I listen to my doctors. I reach out for help when needed.
They don't know anything. They're just
No.
doctors.
No.
Pompous.
God complexes.
Yeah.
It's also an author thing.
My kids don't even know what my first name is. They just call me Doctor. Doctor? Doctor? Can we get Doctor? No, it's not true. It's true.
So, I love that. We have doctors in our family too, so that's very funny. But it's just about viewing Mount Everest. Instead of saying, all right, I'm going to climb it all at once, I'm just going to walk over one pebble.
Yeah.
And then you just walk over the next tiny pebble. And then eventually you're halfway up the hill.
Right.
And it's the same thing about writing a book. I can actually show you that I wrote this first page, right here, on one of the worst days of my life. Where are you? There we are. We'll find it. This is where I forget that I can't see, because, it's only been a couple of years. Here we go. This first sentence right here, in this first chapter, has become defining in my career. But at the time, I thought it was garbage. But just like everything, this first chapter now defines my life. And defines everything that I've ever done. Because it's only one chapter, one paragraph, one letter at a time. And it doesn't have to be great. Your first draft of anything doesn't have to be great. It just has to be done.
Right.
But if you don't do it, you'll never know.
Right.
And that's what I tell my students.
That's excellent references and examples. And I remember hearing one, I think it was from Jim Rohn, that this saying is that on a foggy night you can only see 100 feet. So you drive the 100 feet, and then you can see another 100 feet, and you drive another 100 feet.
Right.
And eventually you get to where you need to go. Writing, if you said to somebody, can you write a 400-page book? They would say no. But could you write a page in 3/4 a day for a year? Then you would finish writing the book. But when you look at it as an insurmountable task, it seems impossible. But if you look at it as a sequence of events, all part of something, attacking it one step at a time, making that first step, writing that first page of the book, I think it makes it easier. And I think it's something that applies to everyone in a task, something that they want to achieve, breaking it up into small parts and going one step at a time. There's a story that there's a certain kind of tree grows, I think in China, it's like a bamboo tree where you water it for years and it doesn't grow at all. And then in a short amount of time, a matter of weeks, it can grow up to be 90 feet. So but if you don't water it for one day, it'll die. So you have to keep watering and watering and watering and watering and watering. And then all of a sudden, or the stone cutter who hits the stone every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. And then all of a sudden the stone breaks. So you don't see any achievement for a while. You don't see any progress. But in your recovery, the small things, there are probably days where you felt like I'm not making any achievements.
Right.
But if you didn't do it, then you wouldn't get that achievement that you would then eventually see, unless you did it every day.
Or like a lotus flower that literally grows out of mud. And so you have to, and with life, having dual sensory loss, right, and other conditions, there are days where you just don't know what, I mean, you just wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm having a bad hearing and vision day. I can't get around. I can't figure this out. And I have to go slow. But that's the opposite. I'm from a New York Jewish family. We go fast. But I taught myself how to go slow. And also I communicated with the people around me that I needed to go slow. Because if I didn't go slow, I was going to mess up. You have to figure out what works for you. And this doesn't just apply if you have a disability. This is in life. Do you work a certain way? How can you go about it? We're all incredible. The brain is an incredible thing. We're all amazing, amazing creatures. How do we learn? How do we go about the world? How can we self-improve? And if you figure out how you do it, it's amazing the strides that you can take in a very short period of time. So it's exactly what you're saying with the tree. You have to water it every day, and then one day it will grow. That's spot on. And even if you go with the trees, it's a tiny little tree, and it doesn't matter. Keep going, because the only way out is through. And then you'll look back, and the things that you learned from the struggles and the problems and the war is you're a better person. You came out with a set of armor that you didn't have before, and then you can face life in a different way, and then you can help others. But you can only help others if you help yourself. Because if you don't understand the wisdom that you've given through the hardships that life has, then you can't digest and understand it and then do something with it. Give the pain a purpose is what I do.
That's what you wrote to me.
That's what I do.
Right.
If I have a terrible day, just the worst ever, what am I going to do with it? And that is how I get up in the morning, because I view it as a challenge. I want the darkness to be afraid of me.
That's good. I think I may have to quote me on that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think we've heard from many people the expression that it's not what happens. Because what happens to lots of people.
Right.
The question is what you do about it. What do you do when life throws these things at you? How do you respond? Because ultimately, there's no meaning to anything except for the meaning we ascribe to it. And if you can find a meaning, a purpose, and learn from it, and then teach other people, because what we do for other people, I mean, people of strong character strive to give to other people and to people that depend on them.
Right.
And then come what may, you should have the strength to survive by understanding that people depend on you and what they can learn from you and what you can do for them. So your story, I mean, the more you tell it, the more people are going to be affected, because they're going to tell other people. So you're going to get something from it because you're telling your story. But then other people are going to be affected. And the story is going to go and go and go. And you don't realize the ripple effects that it'll have. I mean, when you said that you're a better person now because you lost your vision, I don't think many people were expecting you to say that.
Nope.
I mean, they're expecting, I lost my vision, I'm angry. I lost my vision, what can I accomplish? I lost my vision, I never took care of myself, and I'm angry, and I'm just going to pack it up, and I'm going to leave my wife and leave my kids, and I'm just going to stay at home and watch reality TV. To say I'm better because of what someone else could think could ruin their life is an amazing insight. And I think it prepared you for what the most recent challenge, which is now you're losing your hearing.
Right. And I'm not going to say, like, it seems like I have it all together, but there's not days that I have it all together. When I went deaf, I told my husband to leave me. I mean it. I said, you did not sign up for this. You signed up for a blind woman. You didn't sign up to be with a blind, deaf woman who's going to not be able to communicate except for this. And I just, you jump off a cliff. When you're losing your hearing and your vision rapidly, you just think everything's just coming to an end because it's grief. You don't realize you're going to be able to have a life. And that deaf-blindness is also a spectrum. And the technology to have that out there is amazing. And he went, that's not what I signed up for. We signed up for better or worse, sickness and health. Oh. That's not what we said under the chuppah.
Right.
That's not why I'm here. And
what a strong character, because it almost like I love you and who you are, who your soul, what's inside of you, what makes you you, and that's not dependent on what your senses are able to do.
But we didn't think about this. What if it passes down? So we're sitting there at Jules Stein, UCLA, and it's the night after we saw the head of retina genetics, Dr. Warren, who is absolutely amazing. Anyone who's ever watching this, if you have any sort of eye condition or genetic condition that affects your eyes and ears, he is the most wonderful, kind doctor in that department. He actually has called me on the phone and asked how I was doing. Not to mention, he's brilliant and very fun to talk to and has great taste in television.
Is he a good dancer?
Well, I have to ask that, but he does watch K-dramas. So it was intense. So we get there, and the stress is out of this world because I'm losing my hearing and vision at the same time by the day. And we're sitting there. We go home, and the Paralympics are on. And I see a little bit of the TV, I had a little bit of vision out of it, but it was really bad. And I couldn't really hear, and I had been crying a lot, and you cry with low vision. It gets worse. Your vision gets worse. And I said, what's on TV? He said, it's the Paralympics. And he described blind soccer.
Wow.
And he said, my husband's a sports fan. He said, this is an amazing sport. These are true athletes. And I looked at him, I said, what if this passes down? What if we have a blind child or a child that goes blind? What if all of our children are destined to have the curse that I have? And he says, well, doesn't even skip a beat. We'll start training them for the Paralympics young. I have a couple sports in mind. He started looking things up. He's like, I'll coach him. We did find out that I have something that is sporadic and most likely will not pass down. There's no one ever in the history of my family, and my identical twin, who is 99.9% genetically identical, that has this. So it's from mitochondria. My mom doesn't have it. It's sporadic. Mitochondria conditions usually come from the mother. And this, as of right now, they think they've only mapped the entire human genome once. And they mapped my genome, which was a gift that I was able to get at the Mayo Clinic, and they can only go to a certain percent. So we know why I have some medical conditions, but do we ever, this is the question, will I ever know why I'm going deaf and blind? And I don't have Usher's, I don't have the label, which I thought I had. I was convinced I have Usher's, because Usher's is the condition that makes you go blind and deaf, and I hit every single marker at every age, but it didn't come up. Does that mean I don't have it? No, not at all. I could still have it. It could still come up in 3 years. Now, I wake up every day not knowing if I'm going to go blind and deaf completely. That has been what I'm trying to go, what do I do with this? What do I do with it? How do I make positive action, right? And I realized what makes me feel better is going straight in and gaining control. Going through the pain, walking on fire. My bubby, my grandmother, she called herself a fire walker. She went to one of the Tony Robbins things and she walked on fire. Anyway, that was her thing. So I love it. For her, I walk on fire. So she was awesome. And I immediately got myself an appointment, and I can apply and eventually get cochlear implants when necessary. And I started out telling around my friends in the community, and I get this massive text message from someone who works with special education students, who I thought was a friend, telling me that cochlear implants are terrible. I shouldn't get them, and I should let myself go naturally deaf and blind with no way to communicate with the world. And I was in my most vulnerable state. And this was a friend. And I went, what do I do with this? This person works with children. What do I do? And I realized there's only one thing to do. Not listen. Right? Because you have to live your life your way, and this applies to everyone. If someone says something that is completely, wrong, you just don't listen. You can't listen. Did it make me cry for a couple days? Yeah. Especially because this person themselves is not blind or deaf, but had the gall to say, you should just lose all your senses. So another thing I learned was it's okay to cry. People are going to say stupid things. It's okay to not be okay.
Sure.
And the mentality on that is just keep going.
Sure.
Walk over the next pebble. And if you don't have a support system that understands you, actively look for one that does. Because it's so important to keep going, to have that support. They're the wind in your sails.
Sure.
Otherwise, you can't keep moving. And just because I'm going deaf and blind and had a stroke and had this crazy life, that doesn't mean everything I've learned does not apply, and it's not as painful for someone who hasn't. I remember, because I wasn't always this disabled. The pain that I had when I was younger over a breakup, that was real pain.
Sure.
And it felt just as real to me as going blind.
Sure.
So if a divorce can be just as painful as losing a limb, going blind, getting diagnosed with a serious condition, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And so I think the minimizing pain of saying, well, at least, that person, I'm not it's not good. Let yourself say, okay, I'm glad I don't have that, but it's real, it's legitimate.
Sure. Excellent. My wife and I are huge fans of Tony Robbins. He was my inspiration to go on this quest I've been on for a while, and I think we could apply some of his wisdom now, which is people they'll take the trauma in different ways based on their 6 human needs. Which needs are important for them? One will be affected more. If one values their significance based on their money and they lose their money, then their life will fall apart. If someone else needs to have a certain amount of certainty in their life and they lose that, then their life is gone. So when someone says to you how you should interpret something, they're interpreting it from which needs they value more than others, and it may not make sense to you and I. But for sure, the pain of a divorce, the pain of loss, emotional loss, can be the same as physical pain, and then it's how we look at it, it's how we interpret it, and that, like you said, that inner circle that you have. We need to surround ourselves with people that support us on our quest to what we'd like to accomplish, and be careful, because the people that we surround ourselves with can affect us in a bad way.
Very.
Your success will bring jealousy from people. They say, well, Britt's doing this because she's only successful because of this, or she's only interested in this now. She's not going to pay attention to us anymore because she doesn't need us, because she's so successful and she's so rich, and she probably did it in a way that wasn't ethical. I bet she didn't really write that stuff. And what it does
I've gotten all that.
it makes them feel better about themselves by trying to reinterpret your success to try to make them feel better about their position. Like you drive through a neighborhood and say these houses are all occupied by rich people, and they must have done something unethical in order to get their wealth. It's a way of looking at other people's success and trying to whatever the reverse of justify, delegitimize it by trying to explain why you're not successful, and then say why the other person is. It's not something you would even want, and it's what the other person doesn't even really deserve. And these are people we should probably not surround ourselves with. You want people that are going to support you and help you and be there to listen to you, and you're there to listen for them, but that are going to not hold you back and get you to where you want to go.
I try to teach what I've learned. One of the things is I've tried to rephrase the extreme compassion is the way I try to go about my life, because I've now learned that everyone is fighting their own war, right? But that doesn't mean that you let something incredibly toxic in your life. If there's a part of your body that has cancer and it's going to spread it everywhere else, unless you cut that piece off, cut it off. You have to have that ruthlessness, because otherwise it's going to spread.
Right.
It's going to spread. And then I also talked about, I was just talking about this with my sister today. I said, we work hard on building a foundation for a life, right? When you're young, your parents teach you how to build the base to a house. You have the school, the foundation, the school, everything else. Then you build the wall, everything else. You have a house. Then you're an adult, right? And then you have a leaky sink. You have a weird crack and there's in the wall. It sounds weird. You keep going. All right, it's just a sink. Just a sink. Something's off. One day, the pipe's going to bust and your whole house is going to flood. Take care of the problem now.
Sure.
And that is, if you're having a problem, get help.
Sure.
And part of that is just ego. Get over it. Life's not all about you. Sorry.
Excellent. No, absolutely. To address the small problems before they become big problems, and with our own thoughts. Like I think your dad detected this early. Is if you look at your brain as a garden, and it has to be cultivated on a daily basis. If you don't cultivate it, the weeds are going to grow.
Right.
You have to be there constantly monitoring what is growing in the garden, which is your mind. And when a thought starts to creep in there that shouldn't be there, self-criticism, cynicism, pessimism, critiquing yourself, limiting yourself, you're not good enough. You're not able to do it. What's possible for them is not possible for you. That needs to be ripped out like a weed in the garden before. Yeah. And if you don't, it will overtake it very quickly. And these problems that you were referring to, you're right. You have to address them sooner, because they'll become bigger problems if you don't allow them if you allow them to go unchecked.
So I have that answer to your question that you asked now.
Please.
What makes me different? What is my mentality that I have? Because this is my first time really talking, or second time actually, but first time in this level of detail ever talking about this. The pandemic, it all happened during the pandemic. I couldn't go out, couldn't go places. I did one convention. I'm just getting out in the world again, like a baby bird. No, okay, I'm good. I'm starting to fly. But my mentality is that I only can control myself. And that has been my mentality since I wrote book 1. And that's what I taught myself after I wrote the Strand Prophecy, book 1. That I can't control my body. I can't control the fact I had a stroke. I can't control the fact that my optic nerves are dying and that my ears are dying. I can't control the fact that the world is going dark and silent every day when I wake up. But you know what I can't control? This fact that I can try to get up, that I can call someone, that I can do something, and I can push myself forward and prepare for maybe going completely deaf and blind, or maybe not. I might never. And I can't go there. I can control my brain is saying, right, you will not go there, but you will prepare in case you do. So that is what makes me me, because I control myself. That's how I overcome my struggles.
It's such wisdom. Viktor Frankl said the last freedom that we have, the highest level of freedom is that you can control your own thoughts and nobody can take them away from you.
Right.
I guess it's easy for somebody to say, but ultimately you control how you respond to things. You understand that you can't control the seasons, you can't control the planets, you can't control the wind and the rain and the sun, the winters, but you can control what you do about it. You can control how you think. You can refine your philosophy. You can look at it and reinterpret it, and what can you get out of it, and how can you help other people? Yeah. I'm going blind, but I'm going to continue to write, and I'm going to teach other kids, and I'm going to show them how to live through this, and not only just get by, but to do really well, because I've done it so they can do it.
Right.
When they see somebody like you, Brittany, you're so approachable, and you're so kind, and your sister and your parents who I've met, you have the opportunities that you have to help kids, not just that are losing their senses, but kids that are struggling with something, right, and they can look at you and see how approachable you are, and how well you speak, and how much you've done for the community, but also in writing. And you're like an excellent emissary for someone that, well, just get by, or just hang in there another day, or hang in there another week, and we'll just see what happens. No, just planning, getting through the struggles, making goals, getting through them, accomplishing them, and then moving on, despite whatever struggles might come. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
And also the concept that I don't want people to feel bad for me. That's what I realized. Because you think at first, everyone says, I'll pray for you. But I don't want anyone to pray for me. Go pray for someone who really needs it. Because I got this. Right now, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I didn't got that. I needed your prayers. Right now, I got this. Because I do. I know what I have. They say I'll have a normal, if not great, life expectancy, because everyone seemed to, I said that my family, I tell them the good die young, but the annoying live forever. So I've got at
Billy
least
Joel,
90 years.
The Billy Joel.
Yeah, so it's fine. I'm good. There are people that really do need prayers and need help, but I'm not one of them. I've got this.
Right.
And we all got, if we work hard and just one day at a time, we can all get it. But you can also have a bad day and got it, you know?
Sure.
It's life is a journey, and you never really know where it's going. But accepting the fact that it never knows where it's going can also make life incredibly exciting.
Sure. If it was always good, it wouldn't be a life.
Right.
If it was always good, that wouldn't be a life. It would be. So I mean, life is made up of, that's another Jim Rohn reference, but life is made up of seasons, and you must learn how to handle the winters. You know that after the winter comes spring. And how often does this happen?
Right.
Well, for thousands of years, as far as we know, how often does the sun come up? Every day. The light is followed by darkness. Darkness is followed by light. And understanding that the winters seem to be a little bit colder, and the winters sometimes seem a little bit longer, that if you continue, the spring will be there. And I think what you have done is you've taken what would be a long winter for somebody, and you've seen the opportunity. And that's what you have, right? When you plant in the spring and you harvest in the fall, you're planting at a time, and you're going through, you know, there's going to be turmoil, there's going to be hail and struggles, but you can see the goal in the future. Mm-hmm. And whether or not you get to the goal depends on how you live.
Right.
And if you don't plan properly, you don't set goals, and you don't realize that there is struggle, and that's the way life is, and that you can't control, but you can control how you respond to it. You can accomplish anything, and you can get through any test, in addition to how you contribute to other people, because I think that's the thing that enables people that have a struggle to get through it, is their commitment to other people and the willingness to help, and understanding there are people that depend on them, and if they're able to help them with whatever wisdom they have, or caring or insight, by giving that to other people, that dependence that they have on you and you have on them is something that is outside of you, that enables you to struggle through and achieve what you want to and get past the challenges.
I also say I wouldn't have been able to go through what I'm going through if I didn't let me be my authentic self. And that is an eccentric science fiction author. And so when you're, especially a woman, right? For me, I compare myself to a flame. And most people think when they meet me that I'm a delicate, small tea light. Or maybe they can't control the flame. And this is when I was dating, I would use this reference. And they put the flame, maybe we'll put it in the fireplace, we can control it then. But I'm not a tea light. I'm not gonna light it, I'm not a fireplace. I'm a wildfire. I'm gonna burn everything all the way to the ground and light it all the way up, and then it's all gonna grow anew. Wow. And you have to let yourself be that wildfire. Because if you're not yourself and going through life, then what are you doing? You're faking it. You're putting on a mask every day and you're pretending to be someone else. And one day you're going to look in a mirror and go, I'm not me. And I'm not the only one who's gone. A lot of people have talked to me about this. Because you have expectations of what you should be from whatever it is, what other people want you to be. And you live an inauthentic life. A life where you haven't done the things that you've wanted. Now there's reasonable things you can do in your life. And then there's unreasonable things. Right? There's only so much. We have to make a living. There's certain things that we have to do. But there's things about everybody that makes us different, unique, special. And if you don't pursue those things that you love, then you don't have that flame that keeps you going. So it's about having the self-control, right? We go back to the points. We have to be able to control ourselves. We know what we can. We know what makes us special. We have to allow ourselves to let us be ourselves. Let yourself have a bad day if it's bad. Sure. Let yourself cry. Keep going, because you're going to get better.
Oh, excellent. Yep. So we'll conclude in a few minutes, but Brittany just reminded me of something that it's in Ecclesiastes. It says that there's a time to laugh, and when you're done laughing, you just laugh some more. No, it says that when there's a time to laugh, there's a time to laugh, and there's a time to cry, and we need to be sophisticated, and we need to have enough emotional intelligence, and not just intellectual intelligence, to know when to laugh, and then to know when to cry, and not cry when it's time to laugh, and not laugh when it's time to cry, and to help other people if they need to talk and they're sad, to be with them, and to understand and try to embrace the emotion. It's okay to let life touch you, and it's okay to experience the emotion. And when you're sad things should make you sad. And if you're not sad when there's something that should make you sad, there might be something wrong. And if you can't get happy when it's time to get happy, that's another problem.
Then get help for that.
Yeah, but when you feel the pain, I mean, it's not something you ignore. But then what you do with it, and how you allow it, and whether or not you allow it to keep you down, or are you able to get past it? Remember this. So Martin Seligman from the University of Pennsylvania, the positive psychology founder, said that from Schopenhauer and Freud, they said that the best that we can hope for in life is to not suffer and to not be miserable. But that's not what life is about.
No.
Not having these bad things. It's excelling, and that's what psychology was for almost 100 years, was getting rid of the bad. Let's make the person not depressed. Let's make them not angry. But that doesn't necessarily make them happy and successful and leading a fulfilling life. And that's what you've done. You've not just said, well, I have this problem, but I'm able to not just, it's not that I'm not unhappy about it and I'm not depressed about it. I'm able to go way, way past. I'm able to use what's happened and just go way, way past what other people would expect. I wanted to ask you just one more question that Dee and I thought might be important.
Oh yeah, and I had a state.
Go, tell me.
That if we only painted every painting in all white, then they would all be blank canvases. If we didn't use the dark colors, then there would be no images.
Yeah.
So there has to be darkness and light, and there has to be a combination of the two. Otherwise, it's not living.
Yeah. The contrast.
Yeah.
I mean, the contrast. People, we get up every morning, we say these blessings about, thanking the Almighty for returning our vision.
Yeah.
But none of us have ever lost our vision, so we don't even understand what it means.
I didn't even know that until...
Sure. People just breeze through it, and I say, would you like to talk to someone who actually lost their vision? And then maybe you'll take this a little bit more seriously and not have to wait till you lose something to appreciate that you once had it. You go deaf. Well, now I appreciate the fact that I had hearing.
Yep.
Appreciate it before something happens. Appreciate your vision and your hearing, your sense of smell, your kids, your family, the country that you live in, the blessings that we have here like no other place in the world, in the history of the world. And to not wait for one of these things to disappear for us to appreciate it. Because to lose your vision, to lose your hearing, to lose your ability to walk, I mean, to think about it ahead of time is something I think that we don't do as often as we should.
No, and it's good to learn from others and watch others that have gone through things that we haven't gone through, because that helped me as well, was to follow other people online and watch them who've gone through struggles, because it made me appreciate it. And now that I'm going through it, I appreciate it a heck of a lot more, but I also appreciate the things that I do have, because I have so much. I'm really a blessed person in most of the departments of my life. But to know that regardless of what happens in life, I know that I will be okay because I've got me.
That's a lot of insight, Brett. I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
How did you meet your husband?
Oh, this is a great story. So I had decided that I was going to join a dating app, which was scary because I am blind. And I didn't know if anyone on the app was ever going to swipe on me because I'm blind. Only blind at this point. And I thought, oh, that's terrible. So I decided, I made my profile, and I put that I was a science fiction author, that I had a CEO of a nonprofit, that I was an artist. And then I did something cute. I said that you could definitely steal food off my plate and I wouldn't know that you did. And I put my pictures up there, and I didn't know that you had to do like a full body picture. I just did like pictures of me smiling at Comic-Con and then my dog. And my mom, being a Jewish mother that she is, she paid for the upgrade on J-Swipe.
Okay.
There's an upgrade, and it's $70. Why would she pay for an upgrade? So you can see who swiped on you. And I went, no one's gonna swipe on me because I'm blind. I wrote in there that I'm blind, and you could see me with a blind cane in every photo. And not everybody looked at that. But I was living in California at the time, and I would come back and forth to Vegas. And I looked at my phone, and I had over 800 people that had swiped on me. And I went, what?
Right.
And
now you have a different problem.
I went,
Now how do you decide?
what? So I went through, and I went, what do I want? Because at this point, I was ready to find someone to marry. I was ready to get married. And I was not just dating to date. I'd done that. And I wanted to find someone who had the same values and religious values and cultural values and family values that I did, because I think that, just logically, that would make a better match for a long-term marriage. My parents were together 40 years on just a couple days ago. So just looking at it from a science point of view, I went, this will find a better match if they have these things. Not that I don't appreciate and think all humans are wonderful. I love all people. But I thought for better long-term match, this would make sense. And I went, and then I also was jaded. I didn't think anything was going to work. So I texted him. My grandmother actually had multiple strokes and started to die. And I was stuck in Los Angeles. And I thought to myself, what would my grandmother want me to do? She would want me to go on a date with a nice Jewish lawyer. So I said, okay, yes. But then we were in and out of the hospital with her. And she woke up out of her stroke. And I said, he called me multiple times. And I kept missing his phone calls because I'm blind and did not know how to work a phone. But he was persistent. He went, I'm going to keep calling you. Maybe she missed it. Maybe because she's blind. So he called me 3 times. And I eventually got the phone call and went, I'm so sorry. My bubby is dying. And he went, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do if my bubby was dying. My heart's with you. Can I help? I went, he has a puppy? So, I was in a Jewish dating app. This shouldn't surprise me. So my grandmother wakes up out of her stroke, and she speaks special, like Belarus Yiddish. But at this point, she didn't understand English anymore. She forgot, because she was raised with Yiddish. So I am only semi-fluent. So I had to call the Hasidic rabbi in an area who did speak that type of Yiddish to get in to be able to communicate. And then he left, so we were able to communicate at that point. And I whispered, and she was actually, they had a, what's it called, the tube all the way down the throat, and they're breathing for them.
She was on a ventilator.
She was on a ventilator. They pull the ventilator out while I'm there. And I run to her side, and I'm with her for hours, and I'm speaking Yiddish and English. And I grab her hand, I said, I have a date with a nice Jewish lawyer in 3 hours. I'd have to leave now to do my hair. Should I go? She shouldn't have known anything. She just had 3 or 4 strokes, a heart attack, and staph infection, and all this stuff. And she looks at me and goes like this.
Oh.
I'm like, you can speak? So I left. And I left that date, and I went, that was the first date I'm ever going on. And we knew we were going to get married 8 weeks later.
Wow. What a great story.
Yeah.
So now, in closing, tell us what message for kids, what message could you give? Maybe just quickly, what could you tell them, kids that are struggling with any number of things, socially, physically, what could you tell them that would help them?
Well, focus on what you're good at. And focus on what you love, because that could be something that you can make into something amazing. Right? It can become a career. You don't even know. You like video games that much? Want to create them?
Sure. You
don't know where your talent is. And it's a beautiful time in life because you're going to be able to find your talent. And also, remember, everyone's going through something. So if you're going through a hard time, everyone else around you is going through something else. So remember that too. And don't be so hard on yourself. Because everybody's super hard on themselves.
Right.
But it's okay. That's part of growing up.
Sure.
And you have to forgive yourself when you have a bad day. And if you don't fit into something, that's okay. You can fit into something else. And the things that you think are so important now, the system that you could be in, right? Because there's a certain system when you're in school, which is good, but you think if I don't get an A on that test or this, my life is over. Ultimately, at the end of the day, 20 or 30 years later, that really test did not matter.
Right.
It's other things that mattered. So don't define yourself by that, because there are other ways to be successful.
Sure.
So do the best you can in school, but if you can't do it the conventional way, find other ways. Talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, find other ways and focus on your talent. Because ultimately, in the 20 or 30 years later, that's what's going to matter.
No. I love it. And what you said the other night was so profound. You said everybody's a genius in a certain area. So you have to find what it is and then cultivate it and not ignore it and not let it go to waste. It's like a seed that you don't plant. You could take a bonsai tree and you wrap it down, or you could have the General Sherman growing in California 275 feet high. They both started as a seed, but one was held back and the other one was allowed to grow in the fertile soil of California. And you can see what the potential is. You just have to cultivate it the right way.
Have you heard the Albert Einstein quote? And I'm probably not going to get it perfect. And that is, everybody is a genius, but if you expect a fish to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking it is stupid. I told my parents that if, for me in the public school system, I was a parrot in an aquarium. Yeah. I needed to fly, but I was expecting me to swim. So we're all different, we're all special, we're all unique. And that's what makes humans so amazing.
Yep.
And that's what makes life so amazing.
Yep.
And there's so much in the world to experience. And when you're young, you're just getting started.
Right.
So build a good foundation, focus on what you love, because it's just the beginning of a beautiful ride of a world full of amazing people, amazing cultures, foods, music, entertainment, things that you can never imagine, that you don't even know what's about to happen. The books that you've read are not even a fraction as interesting as what your life is going to be if you let yourself live to full potential.
Amazing. So that was, Brittany, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Such an extended period of time in a format where you could really get your message across and tell the world what you've experienced and then how they can learn from it and how they can be better. This will be the first of hopefully numerous interviews that we'll conduct, and I think this will be very difficult to exceed the wisdom that you're able to impart at such a young age and the successes you've had and the wonderful family that you have. Just the beginning, and hopefully it'll continue. It'll grow even bigger, and hopefully we can all learn from Britt's story, how she thinks about events that have happened, and how we can apply this to our own lives. How can we get through a situation? This is a young lady who is tremendously successful, who had struggles and was able to overcome them and not just survive, but to thrive. And this is something that we can all benefit from, hearing stories like this. And I think that Brittany is probably the best example I can think of. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Once again, look forward to seeing what you continue to produce in your academic and professional career, and getting to know you and your family much better. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making this interview accommodating for all of my disabilities, because being able to actually hear you, and it's so quiet, and making it blind friendly has been amazing. And I know that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Anything we can do to help you in the future, you just let us know. All right.
Thank you so much.